Hi, in this lesson, we're going to introduce a 1,000-year-old math theory and learn how to use it in Python to make needed roof calculations. As described earlier in the project, precision roofing builds their roof based on the distance between the walls and the desired attic height. With these measurements, along with the roof length, we're so close to being able to determine the roof area. One of the remaining pieces we need to calculate is the roof slope length. If we look closely, we see with the slope length, attic height, and half the wall distance, we have a right triangle. Remember, a right triangle is a triangle with one angle that is 90 degrees. Here, this angle occurs between the wall distance and the attic height measurement. We'll label these three sides of the right triangle as A, B, and C. Side C, which is opposite of the right angle, is called the hypotenuse. The question is, if we know the values of side A and B, the wall distance and the attic height, can we figure out the length of C? Thousands of years ago, an ancient Greek philosopher known as Pythagoras is credited for a mathematical discovery relating the lengths of the three sides of a right triangle. He said that if you draw squares off each side of the triangle with the lengths of the square matching the side length and calculate the areas, the area of the hypotenuse square equaled the sum of the areas of the two other squares. Writing this out, it would look like this. C squared, the area of the red square, equals A squared plus B squared, and thus we now have an equation that relates all three sides of a right triangle, known as the Pythagorean Theorem. With this equation, if we know the length of any two sides, we can calculate the length of the third. Remember, with simple algebra, I can move the variables A, B, C around. For example, I could subtract b squared to the other side and get a squared equals c squared minus b squared, allowing for us to solve for a. But in our case, we want to solve for the length of the side c. Let's take the square root of both sides. The square root of c squared is equal to c, so simplifying, we get c equals square root a squared plus b squared. Okay, let's take our triangle sides and write them as variables. Here, we have a equaling 3 and b equaling 4. In order to solve for c, I use the Pythagorean theorem from the last slide. Remember, the double asterisk means exponent, so a asterisk asterisk 2 is the same as writing a to the power of 2. Unfortunately, when I run this program, I get an error message. It says, the name square root is not defined. This is because the base level of Python does not have the square root function built in. It's an easy fix though. All we have to do is write the code at the top that says import math. Without getting into all the details, this code essentially imports many different math functions and constants for us to use in our code without having to create them ourselves. Then we write math.squareroot to be able to use the imported square root function. Now when I run the program, we don't get an error and see the length of the hypotenuse is 5. Let's walk through this in our live editor. Using Python, let's now calculate the hypotenuse of a right triangle with a base of length 6 and a height of length 8. We'll refer to them in our code as A and B. Now, to compute side C, the hypotenuse, we compute C is equal to the square root of A squared plus B squared. Let's print the results. When I run the code, we get an error. We have an error because the square root function is not built into the base level of Python. We first need to import the math module to use it. To do this, we write import math at the top of our program. After, we have to write math dot in front of the square root function in order to use it. When I rerun the code, it works as expected. Therefore, the length of side C is 10. Now it's your turn to explore this example.